So, apparently there was a race on last night. I know we've all made memes about how it's all being done to give Netflix more material for Drive to Survive, but the more stuff goes on, the more it becomes less of a joke and more of an actually. And to be honest, if that is actually the case, and I'm using if in big letters here, then I'm going to be thinking, what's the point in actually watching next year? Because what we're looking at here isn't really sport anymore, it's WWE. You know, convenient penalties in this race here, stuff going on there, just to try and generate a super exciting season. And yes, we want to have something that gets us tuning in every week and gets us really excited, but if the sport is rigged, then viewers are going to turn off, and the teams aren't going to be happy either, because they'll be spending big money for that money to go down the pan, because this penalty will knock their driver down a bit because the show. And if I'm being honest, it makes the sport look like a fucking joke. Add to this, we had a circuit that was completed something ridiculous like 2 or 3 days before the actual race weekend, and everybody was wondering if it was actually going to be safe or not because of the blind corners or, you know, the tarmac. Would that be cured in time? And some wondered it would still be too soft, and if the cars go through the high-load corners too much with those skid blocks skating along the floor, then the track would be ripped up and then they'd have to stop the race or, you know, delay a session because they'd had to, you know, patch the tarmac back up again. Yeah, memories of Bathurst 2014 when they had to stop the race for about 45 minutes or so, or maybe an hour I think it was, because they had to repair the track at turn 2. Then there's the stuff that happened in the F2 race, a big crash for Enzo Fittipaldi, where the news on that front is that he's got a broken ankle, but I don't think we can actually blame that one on the track. That was just, you know, hitting a stalled car while blindsided. So for the qualifying in Formula 1, you had a Mercedes 1-2, but it really should have been a Red Bull that was on pole position. You know, Max put in an absolute stonker of a lap in that final part of Q3, but gave the wall a bit of a whack at the final corner. Now, some thought that the gearbox might have been damaged, but as the race turned out, seemed to all be okay. But while that Red Bull seemed to have one lap pace, the Mercedes cars were faster over a race distance, with Hamilton and Bottas being able to keep Verstappen at bay until Mick Schumacher lost it at the same place Leclerc did in practice. So the safety car came out, then the red flags came out, and those who didn't pit under the safety car period got a free change of tyres. I've got no clue what Bottas was trying to do. You know, that was not less than a 10-car gap. And people were all, well, the biased British media never said anything about that break of the rules, did they? Well, yeah, they did. Because Martin Brundle's exact words were, when Max said that shouldn't be allowed, Brundle said, "You're right, it's not allowed. It's absolutely not allowed. Under the regulations, you can't do that." So this then put Verstappen into pole position for the restart ahead of Hamilton and Ocon, and this is where the first talking point comes in terms of the on-track controversies. At the second start, Hamilton got the better start and was marginally ahead into turn 1. Max then cuts turn 2 and comes right across in front of the Mercedes. Now compare this to what happened in F2 with Callum Lawson doing exactly the same thing. Lawson stayed further over to the right and then immediately lifted to allow Armstrong to take the lead back. Now all this allowed Ocon to get second place, and it allowed Verstappen to try and get a gap built, but behind all of this, Perez and Leclerc made contact and Perez was spun round, with Russell and Mazepin being caught up in it for good measure. Red flag numero 2. It was a bit bold, to be honest, to be trying to do 3 wide there, and from Perez's onboard it looks like he thought he'd cleared the Ferrari, but he hadn't, and then got spun round like something out of World's Scariest Police Chases. But then a bizarre piece of radio communication between Michael Masi and Red Bull. Masi said, "I'm going to give you the opportunity based off what happened at turns 1-2. We will drop you back behind Hamilton. That's my offer." Red Bull then said, "Yep, we understand the order will be Ocon, Hamilton, Verstappen." I think some of this has got lost in translation, and the word offer wasn't a literal offer, more a turn of phrase, you know, just like offer. You know, the way I see it is that it was a penalty to be taken at the restart as Max had gained the advantage by cutting turn 2 and then taking the lead of the race while Hamilton was cut up and then shoved down to third. It was an Australian way of saying, look, you can either start third at the restart or we'll hit you with a penalty when the race gets going that you'll have to take at the pit stop, if you take one. I hope that, you know, makes sense. I mean, these offers have probably been made a few times over the years, but it's only now that we're getting the FIA radio sponsored by Mercedes and Red Bull. Lewis then cleared the Alpine thanks to that warp drive he's got in the back of his car, and then set his sights, once again, on Verstappen, and then tried to move around the outside of turn 1. And just like in Brazil, Max goes in hot and makes sure Lewis has to take avoiding action and then exits turn 2 with something like a 1.5 second gap or something to that effect. Now in my post-Brazil race video I said, yeah, look, it was naughty, but nobody got wiped out, carry on as you were. But since Max had already done this sort of thing at the start of the second race start and received the Mazzy deal TM, you look at it and you think, yeah, okay, you're taking the piss now. And after the race, Max said, he had a run on me a bit like Brazil, and of course I braked late and got a little bit offline and had a moment and went wide. But he also didn't make the corner. So we both basically missed the corner, and then I don't think it's fair to say I get a penalty. I find it interesting I am the one who gets penalised when both of us ran outside the white lines. In Brazil, it was fine, and now suddenly I get a penalty for it. You can clearly see we both didn't make the corner, but I don't want to spend too much time on it. We both have to move forward. We are talking about white lines and penalties and proper F1 racing, and that's a bit of a shame. Now at the Qatar Grand Prix about a fortnight ago, the drivers were told that if it was deemed that a driver had pushed somebody else off the track or forced them into a situation where it was move or die, the driver that did it would be penalised. It's basically to stop the whole I'm putting my car here, move or we both crash moves that Senna and Schumacher, for all of their natural greatness and success and talent, love to pull off. It was a gentleman's agreement up until the point people started pushing it, and then the FIA made it an actual rule. Now you could say that nice guys finished last, but there will be some racers out there that will be, pretty cool with this kind of thing, but would still reach a point where they go, come on, that's way too far. And yes, Lewis does do the whole pushing people out wide thing, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend that he doesn't. Lewis is a bit more subtle about it. He has far more control when he's doing it. Verstappen's way of doing it is a bit more like Schumacher's, in that it's way more obvious and that he relies more on the instinct and reactions of the other guy to avoid the crash. Opinion. I can only speculate here because we don't see into the drivers' meetings anymore, but I'm thinking it's more of a, okay, Brazil will let that slide, but from now on, if you do it, you're getting a penalty. Basically, Brazil set a precedent. And from looking at what Max is doing, if you keep on doing it, you're going to get penalised. To use a football analogy, you can commit a foul and not get a yellow card. Persistent fouling will get you a yellow card. Do it again, you'll probably be put onto your final warning, and then second yellow, and it's an early bath. And now, the so-called brake check. Max was told to let Lewis through strategically, which we have all probably worked out through commentary and from stewards' reports and things like that Max was trying to let Lewis through in such a way that he would get the DRS down the next straight and take the lead back into turn 1. That was the plan. And this actually happened, I think it was in the 2013, maybe the 2012 Canadian Grand Prix, where it was Hamilton and Alonso fighting for DRS detection going into the hairpin. It was like, you. But while Max had been told to give the position back, Lewis had not been told, either by the FIA or by Mercedes, that, Max was handing position back. So he must have been thinking, what, is the gearbox gone? Engine going? Virtual safety car I haven't seen? What's he signing up for? So in my mind, it's just miscommunication. Max wasn't trying to have Lewis wrecked out of the race. And, looking at it, it's a non-penalty, really, because it didn't change the race results because Bottas and Ocon were too far back. So let's move along. But, I'm going to get called biased one way or another because I didn't say it was all Lewis's fault for hitting Max or whatever, or it was all Max's fault for this. And just grow up, to be honest. But I would like to see the official telemetry from the incident, or better yet, FIA, do those videos that I keep asking for. And I regretted going on Twitter after the race. Everyone just at each other's throats for no reason, and it makes me glad that it's the final race next week. But the Saudi Grand Prix it wasn't a good look, was it? The track looks great for hot lapping. It's basically a flat Bathurst, and those walls are really close. They might actually be too close because there's so many blind corners, and if you're travelling at high speed and you don't see an accident until it's too late, then it's going to be a big one, and that's a fear a lot of people had coming into this race. And next year, the cars are going to be even heavier than they already are. And while there is the stuff about stewarding and marshalling and all that stuff, they actually called in marshals from Bahrain to help out because the Saudis are, not that experienced yet. But there's also the stuff about sports washing, politics, human rights, and along with the Qatar World Cup and all that stuff. But there's just not enough time in the day to cover every little subject, and I've got other stuff I need to get done today. So with that in mind, I'll let you lot slug it out down in the comments section underneath this video, and please keep it civil. And while you're scrolling down, if you think I've made some good points, then give this video a thumb up. If you thought it was crap, you can give it one of these, but hey, I don't see that stuff anymore, so, you know, do what you want. And if you're not already, why not subscribe and get that bell on so you never miss out on any of my future videos. And as always, there is a massive thanks to the patrons of this channel via Patreon, and if you do want to help support this channel by giving me a monthly tip, you can do so by following the link in the description, where will also be a link to Discord and some vague directions to my socials. So until next time, I've been Aidan Millward. Have a great day wherever you live in the world, and I'll see you all again soon for another video. So from me and the sock that now covers my microphone, goodbye.